on Sunday, you told everybody that they needed to find their creative thing. And we'll talk a little bit more about kind of what you meant by that.
Yeah.
But I think it begs the question, what's your creative thing?
Well, I think part of it I talked about.
No,
sermon
you cannot.
writing.
That's what I should have prefaced this. You may not use your sermon writing. You have to use something else.
So something other than sermon writing?
Yes, I'm not discounting sermon writing as your creative outlet. But you already talked about it, so you have to say something else.
If I had more time, it would be yard work.
Like painting or something?
No, I said yard work.
Oh, I definitely heard artwork.
I was like...
Yard work.
I don't paint my yard. Yard
Listen,
work.
do it.
In particular, landscaping. I would love to do that. Like, there's another timeline where I'm a landscape architect.
So like the way that you design flower beds and lay out.
I would love to do that. I don't have...
My jaw is on the floor a little bit. I'm surprised by that.
I think that would be really fun. If you saw my house, there would be no indication that my yard tells you that would be something I would enjoy. So if I could, it would be that. Other than that, I love, like Canva, like some of the graphic design we have to do for the church.
You do like 90% of it.
I like doing that just for funsies.
You're good at it, yeah.
Let me see, is there anything else? I don't know. It's funny because at this stage with Miley, she just constantly wants to be painting or doing something. So there's a little bit of creative outlet that I just have because of her now that we paint together. We draw
I have some
together.
of Miley's art that y'all did together for Sunday.
Yeah. So that would be my answer. What about you?
So I, during the pandemic, picked up embroidery.
Oh.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from, but I haven't done one in a hot minute. Mm-hmm. It's definitely slowed down since Sloan.
Hi, Sloan.
It's slowed down.
We see you.
I don't know what happened. It slowed down during when Sammy was a baby, and then it's been hard to kind of, it's not that I don't have time, it's that I never make time, or I never use the time that way. But I really enjoyed it. And I saw this really cute idea and I was like, I want to do this, where you take artwork done by in this particular video, it was grandkids, and you embroider it onto a shirt. And I was like, that would be such a sweet gift for somebody. So I would really like to do more of that. But it's very peaceful. You don't, once you get going on a row, you don't have to be super zoned in. I tried doing crochet. I saw this again, TikTok. Oh my gosh. They had this great thing called Woobles, I think is what they're called.
Okay.
And you get a thing in the mail, and it gives you access to videos that shows you how to do it step by step.
Okay.
So I started trying to do a little dinosaur for Sammy, and then I had this goal of doing a whole set of little things for his Easter basket. The package is not even opened. It's just sitting in my living room looking at me.
That's such a great idea.
Yeah. So because I did start on the dinosaur, and it became very difficult. Embroidery I can do with Sammy in the room.
Yeah.
You have to count when you're doing the crocheting.
Yeah.
And I, as you know, don't love the numbers anyway. So trying to keep up with my stitches while Sammy is, throwing things at me or whatever.
Yeah.
That didn't really work. But embroidery, because I always do it with a picture. Mm-hmm. So I'm just following the line, so it's not too hard. But I love the old lady things. I love those things. When I was a kid, I played the viola, in high school and a little bit in college, and junior high. But I don't think I would play again for love or money.
Really?
I would be really bad.
What's the difference between a viola and a violin?
A viola is a little bit bigger. Can be a lot bigger, which produces a deeper note. Okay. And it has different strings. So a viola is more like a cello than it is like a violin. Has the same strings as a cello. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of like a shoulder cello.
Yeah.
It doesn't have quite the same deep tone. It's the alto voice.
Do you own one? Do you have one?
Yeah. I still have mine.
Bust it out.
I have
Come
done,
on.
but I'm not me. It would need to be tuned, and I don't even know if I could do it anymore. I couldn't do it by ear. I'd have to go get like a thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Did you do, I mean, I know you did the sports. Did you do any?
I did
choir?
trumpet for half a semester in...
You know what? That makes a lot of sense to me. Having known quite a few trumpet players, that makes a lot of sense to me.
And then I did choir in junior high, which is 8th and 9th grade from where I came from.
Yeah. And you play guitar.
And then I played guitar after that. Mm-hmm.
Do you play piano?
Nope. Well, I learn little things on YouTube that I can play, but I don't know how to read music, and I don't know. But
you know, they have
I
like
don't know how to play piano.
daddy kiddo piano lessons.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I have a friend that does that with their son.
I would like to learn it now.
Yeah.
I was in it when I was
would really
younger,
like to see you and Miley do it. It would be so fun.
Oh boy, yeah, that would be fun.
Well, on Sunday we talked about creativity, the importance of creativity, and how it connects us to God. So let's get into it. I'm Becca. I'm the pastor of Family Ministries here at Katy First.
And I'm Mark. I'm the senior pastor at Katy First.
Welcome to the Katy First Family Podcast, where we offer ideas, inspiration, and encouragement to help you and your family grow as joyful disciples of Jesus Christ. This week, we are talking about inspiring faith and creativity. So you talked about a lot of things. The first question I wanted to ask you is really about the scripture that you used. And how are we made to be creative? How did you did a really good job of weaving that together through the scripture. So can you explain to us a little bit, how is it that we are created to be creative?
Yeah. At least for me, the way I connected the dots is the obvious sort of, we're made in the image of our creator. And so in that sense, being the image bearers of a creator would mean that that's kind of what we do too. We create, and like uniquely in the creation stories, we are the only parts of creation made in the image of God, at least that it tells us. And so like, you know, if you carry that over, but what I wanted to do with that psalm was to connect the dot of creativity and vulnerability as well, and how that psalm is such a vulnerable, in the sense of like, we are fully seen by God, and for a lot of us, that kind of authenticity before people or even before God can be sort of a vulnerable thing. And how, you know, if you think about, just as we might create something, and it's whether it's a piece of art or food or a game plan, there's reflections of us in that creation. Decisions we made about why we did what we did, and how in that psalm, I feel like it sort of illuminates that too, this God that deeply knows us, that builds us with creation. We're built in wonder, who knows all parts. And like, that psalm is kind of interesting. There's like lines in it that I have no idea what it's talking about.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I don't know what this means. And so not only are we made in the image of our creator, but we are also made in that same sort of authenticity of God that gets reflected in us. Just as when we are creative, there's an authenticity that is shown back out to the world through whatever we create. So those things, just kind of holding them all together of, hey, we're made in the image of a creator. We're meant to be creative. You are uniquely perhaps part of the authenticity or the reflection of God. So when we do that, it's good for us to let that come forward in the creative process. Like, there's something about that I think connects us to God. So yeah, kind of tying a couple of things together.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I mean, I think it's worth noting it was Mother's Day. And so I love on Mother's Day how well we lean into creator, right? Language. I think one time we were doing something with the kids. It must have been Family Sunday School a couple of years ago. And I had I try to use different representations of Bible stories so that it doesn't always look, like the characters don't always look the same, right? Because this is actually a thing. Whoever's telling the story tends to make the people in the Bible look like them, right? If you're making the image. And so often what we get is like white dudes, right? So this particular one, it was the wise men, I think. Mm-hmm. And then like baby Jesus. So, but it was done by an African artist. So everyone is black, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a beautiful image. And, but it totally wigged out one of our like elementary age students. Not like they were upset, but that was not the image that they expected.
Yeah.
And so we had a really good, it opened up a beautiful conversation about how God doesn't look like one thing, right? And that we all somehow, even though we all look super different, we all have the image of God. And so we know God has to look like lots and lots of things, right? Has to somehow contain all of those things, which is like, I mean, this kid is like 7 or 8. Yeah. It was a tricky kind of conversation. He was just looking for like white baby Jesus with like the blue eyes and a halo. That's totally fine, right? For his age level to be expecting that. But it opened the door. And I think when we have conversations about God as creator, it opens the door for us to expand how we think about the diversity that's in God. Yeah. I know we use a lot of like masculine image. Yeah. Or masculine language rather, right. And image around God. Yeah. But that's just not accurate. I got in trouble one time. A church member at a church, not this church, this was years ago when I was serving somewhere else, was very upset because I started a congregational prayer with Mother, Father, God. Mm-hmm. And they were very upset because they felt like I was leading people astray because God is male. Mm. And I was like, I just want to be clear that actually what you're saying is heresy, that God is not male, that nobody in the early church they may have used like masculine language, but nobody thought that God was human like that. And so it's important for us to recognize God as creator and the diversity that implies in all of creation as well. Yeah. So just my like random little thing for Mother's Day is like, God's just as much your mom as your dad, just as strong as vulnerable, and holds that like multiplicity of things. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, we've talked about this a lot. I think in that sense, you can take one posture that God is this one masculine gendered language, which you read enough scripture and you realize that that's not only the only language we get of God. Then you can say, well, God's none of that. Or you can just say, actually, God's the fullness of all of this. And we need language that encapsulates all that so that we do see the full picture, which to me, there's you and I talk, like that's the better approach. Yeah. Embrace the fullness of all of this. Yeah. Even if within our scriptures, it's a little bit more limited. Yeah. We certainly have enough there that lets us know it is the fullness of all. Yeah.
I mean, language is limiting just because you have to, it's finite in the moment that you say it. Yep. But that's why being creative is so important, because it lets us access more than maybe what we can put into words. Yep, for sure. So what does it take to be creative? You talked a lot about this on Sunday. Yeah.
It's funny. As I was thinking about this sermon, creativity is such a big topic, and so that to say, being creative can be all sorts of things, right? Anything that gets us to put together, to build together, to use our imagination to form something. So it's the typical things, and maybe it's the atypical things like game plans and less aesthetic things. Other things that seem more mundane, but it's still creative. It's still assembling. And so, what I wanted to sort of lean into was how creativity sometimes invites us into some kind of that vulnerability. And what it takes to be creative is to acknowledge perhaps the barriers that initially come up for us of perfectionism and comparison and disqualification. Oh, I'm not creative. And then to utilize the gift that was helpful for me, this idea of SFD, a stormy first draft, being creative just takes the willingness to get something out there and then to keep working on it.
I love that stormy first draft because I do think that, especially the way you tied it in with vulnerability, it just is so smart to be like, just do the thing. Just try the thing. And we definitely, there's obstacles to just even getting started. And we learn that like really young.
Yeah.
That it needs you need to come out of the gate good. Which is sort of silly. It's not sort of, it's very silly.
Yeah.
What a silly idea.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I'm excited about with the art show on Sunday is like, I'm hoping that one of the things that the kids will teach us is like the beauty of just doing the thing. And because nobody's going to look at anything these kids make and be like, that's not very good.
Yeah.
Everybody's just going to love it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that that's a way that our kids teach us.
Oh yeah, for sure. I totally agree.
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
You also talked about comparison. I don't know if you've used this phrase. I can't remember now. But comparison is the thief of joy. That's definitely a phrase a lot of us have heard.
Yep.
Looking over and seeing somebody else's creativity at work, you go, well, I can't do that. So I have shared this before. I'm going to do it again. When I was in orchestra, I was always in the seat of shame. So they did this, what they called like snake seating. So first and second chair were always the top two best players. Third chair was the third best player. Fourth chair was the worst player. And the idea was that, you wanted 1 and 2 kind of chair towards the front. They had earned those spots. You wanted the third one next, but then the worst player next to them so that the third best could kind of help them improve. I was always fourth chair. Especially junior and senior year. I worked really hard in junior high.
Yeah.
And I was like kind of just naturally good at it. And then in high school, like everybody got really good. And I just felt the need to be just good enough to be in just high enough in orchestra to get to go on the fun trips.
Yeah.
You
didn't have any aspirations of climbing
this was not like I wasn't trying to be the best. I just wanted to be included.
Yeah.
Right? I just had fun with my friends.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that like sort of societally, and I'll say really particularly in Katy, have let go of. Like, just do the thing. Like, the sports are supposed to be a game. All these creative outlets should, to some extent, be fun, even if they're really hard work.
Yeah.
Those hard work and fun don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
But we don't have to be amazing at everything.
Yeah.
We can just do the thing for the love of the thing.
Yeah.
But that can be a really hard thing for people to put into practice.
Yeah.
We get a lot of noise from us from around us that says, if you're going to do it, you should do it really well, the best, better than everybody.
Yeah. Or don't try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is disappointing.
For sure. Yeah. No, I think that's totally true. We did, this, but we did this silly little activity in our staff meeting last week.
Yes.
Where you just drew some squiggly lines on a paper and then you had to turn them into birds.
Yes.
And that came up, like, some people were better at this than others.
I was very bad at it. And I was sitting between Barry and Evelyn, who will be our Family Ministries intern this summer. Yeah. And they both did amazing. And I 100% looked over at what they were doing to try to see if I was like, oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. But I didn't expect this, but I loved them when we all showed our silly little squiggle birds. Like all the different ways that we did birds was kind of cool.
It was very cool.
And to see that each, unique, and that's where comparison, kills things. Like, because we try to be something that maybe isn't us, or at least something that keeps us from trying at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it can be really difficult. You talked about how our creativity can help us connect to, or I think the word you used was find God. Mm-hmm. Can you say more about that?
Yeah. I think there's just in that, I think for me, so let me only speak personally. Okay. Because I think for me personally, in that creative process, I find God in like both the struggle and like the willingness to move through that creative work, and somehow on the other end kind of that sense of joy of and relief. I don't know if that's even the right word, of having been able to stick through that creative process. And that's, again, that's what I think I said on the front end of the sermon. There's a lot of ways to talk about creativity, and what I'm not talking about today is when you just feel inspired and you go do the thing and it's fun and easy, but more of the the harder part of sticking through that creative process. And so I think for me personally, I have found that I find God in understanding more deeply what it is to create and form and be vulnerable, and to have some of that authenticity of yourself. I mean, you kind of find out who you are. And so, I don't know, I think it's kind of hard to put, I guess, into words, but yeah, that's what it is for me, at least.
Oh, I think that makes a lot of sense. I loved that you talked about that creativity being a spiritual practice. And I do think I almost was like, what we should do is we should just try to list a bunch of things. And I was like, no. First of all, my brain will hurt. But I was trying to think through like all of the different all of the different things that you could classify as creative.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think of a way to like be super, because I think it's easy. We can be like, yeah, art is creative, or writing is creative, or cooking is creative. Like those things are, I think, easy for us to grasp. Yeah. A lot of things we might call hobbies could be seen as creative. That's great. Even some sports, I think we would like easily, we could start to fairly easily see how that is a creative outlet. But I try to think about ways that things that we don't typically think about as being creative actually are super creative. And I'm sure other people have already thought of this. Not that this is like the first time anybody's ever been like, but obviously I think science is very creative in the ways that it actually does create things, like it makes things. But it also is just like, I feel like the heart of a scientist is one of curiosity. And I definitely think creativity and curiosity go together.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Sure. Yeah. And that I think science has made some beautiful contributions to mankind. Not just that they make things work, but like the things that we get to see and be inspired by. You've talked about before what's the name of the telescope? The fancy telescope.
James Webb.
Yeah. The beautiful images that we get back from that.
Yeah.
That is inspiring. And somebody had to do the math and science to make that work. Yeah. And that was the other thing I thought is that math actually is incredibly creative for the same reason that science is.
Absolutely.
It makes all of these things that we sort of rely on function. And again, it comes from a place of like, how does this work?
Yeah.
I think so I don't think you have to be an artsy person to be a creative person, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I think that's a good differentiation. Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think that's part of why casting that net super wide, again, more like on a personal, like when I was in seminary and I was thinking about church planting and like any sort of new ministry thing, which is more like game plans and things like that can be terrifying. That could be like, oh God, this is going to bomb. This is going to be stupid. Or the first time someone looks at it, they critique it. Like that's a hard thing to do. Yeah. But the willingness to try that sort of stuff. Yeah. And so I think it can come out in so many different ways. And sometimes it's easier than others. But I really do think trying to at least attach onto, hey, you are actually already doing creative things. Maybe it just hasn't been labeled that. Yeah. So one, let's embrace that. But two, let's say this is a spiritual practice. Yeah. And at least just to add meaning to probably what you're already doing. Yeah. And seeing how that's a reflection of the God who's made you. Yeah. And maybe God's also teaching you something through it that, go back a couple or 2 weeks ago where we talked about seeing, now we're back to beholding. We're back to, I have eyes to see something in my life that was already central on a deep level of, I'm made in the image of my Creator. Yeah. This Excel sheet, I never saw this as a thing that God was doing something, and now it is. Yeah. So I think it's training our eyes to see some stuff that
Yeah.
before we hadn't.
I mean, I think that there's so many examples of that. And I think that talking about those things as spiritual practices, the intentionality, and I think like the sort of fancy, weird way, churchy way of saying is like the posture that you take when you do, right? Isn't that like the weird churchy way to say it? Like how you walk into it, how you approach it, not just like what you are hoping for, not just your intention, but also like your sort of mindset and the way that you're going to go about it. I think really has an effect on what you see as being like special or allowing it to become something more than just a task. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So I hope that as we're talking about it, that it's sparking, inspiring creativity in people to say, hey, this thing that I do, and maybe you do it all the time. Yeah. This thing that I do, this is actually a creative outlet, or it could be. Yeah. Right? And I'm going to embrace it as such and let that be like fuel for me. Yeah. I hope that that's happening. We'd love to know. Yeah. Because I would love to hear all about the different things that people are doing or how they're incorporating this practice.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's like in my sermon, just personally thinking, why am I saying what I'm going to say? And I think that was one of the things, like, I don't even want to have to add anything. Like, just see your life and the creative things that you're doing.
You're doing them.
And realize God's in them. And then secondarily, or maybe next step, like maybe there is something you'd like particularly creative that you've been saying no to because of these usual barriers. Yeah. Go get you an SFD and try it out.
Just give it a shot.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, one of the things we're trying to do on the podcast now is give you some questions to ask your kiddo, just to engage in conversation. And so the question this week that I came up with, and if you've got a better one, I'm here for it, is ask your kiddo at the end of the day, what did you try today? Right? Like, what did you try? And that could be anything. What did you try? Like, did you try a new food? Did you try make a new friend? Did you try a new game? Like building into them that kind of excitement about a stormy first draft, right? Yeah. Just an effort, right? Yeah. I think could be,
that's good.
And then just by asking them the question, maybe every day, but it doesn't have to be that often, right? Just, what did you try today? And then maybe sharing what you tried that day or that week. Yeah. It could be a fun conversation.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing to do. I like that.
Cool.
Good question.
Thanks.
Way to go. High five.
I like how you high-fived yourself. Well, I do want to make sure and invite everybody, because this coming Sunday is the Katy First art show. Yeah. The very first one. Yeah. I don't know if we'll do it again, but
we should.
It's super fun.
This shouldn't be a one-off event. I like this whole idea.
It's so exciting. I'm very excited. I have a bunch of the art already. If you did not give me your art yet, that's okay. I'm prepared to even take stuff on Sunday.
The fly.
Yeah. If you're going to bring it on Sunday, you might want to have it like ready to display. That would make life easier. But no one will be turned away. We will find a way to make all the things work.
I like it.
So bring up your art. You can bring it up during the week or bring it on Sunday. Yeah. And then stay after church on Sunday to see the artwork that's from our church family. It's going to be really cool. I'm really looking forward to it.
I like it.
Yeah. Well, we want to thank you for joining us today. We hope that you have found some inspiration and encouragement for yourself and your family. If you'd like to get our podcast delivered directly to you each week, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or follow us on YouTube. For more information about Katy First and upcoming events for your family, visit our website at katyfirst.org. Most importantly, we want you to know this, that in the middle of your ordinary, messy life, whatever that looks like for you in this moment, that you are not alone, you are doing a good job, and you are loved.
And we hope to see you on Sunday for week number 4 of Inspiring Faith. Yeah. And you're preaching on mystery.
Me. I am. I'm very excited about it.
Good. You're preaching on one of my favorite stories in the
it's one of mine too.
In the whole book of God. Some call it the Bible.
I was gonna say the Bible. Yep.
So I'm excited. I'm excited to hear it. We'd love to see you on Sunday. Come check out the art. Come bring some art. And we'll see you back here next week. Have a great week.